I once carried an apology like a folded map. Creases where other people told me to turn, a dotted line leading to their comfort. It fit into the pocket of every conversation, a small, polite thing that could be handed over and accepted without fuss. They taught me how to fold it thinner, how to tuck the edges so no one could see the places it had been torn. Some apologies are like little glass boats, pretty buoyant, meant to float away and never be found. Some are like pocket lint, collected without intention, then offered as if currency. I paid with them for my seat at tables that never had room for me. I paid with them to hush the sound of my own laugh. I paid with them to keep a door from closing on someone else's discomfort. So I started a ledger, not the stiff ledger book kind of mason jar on the sill, sunlight through its ribs, a label hand scrawled, apology. Not accepted here, I would drop the small things in. Sorry for interrupting, sorry for my shoelaces, sorry for not being smaller, sorry for the weather I made by being alive. They sank without making promises. Once the jar was heavy enough to make the sill dip, I noticed how other jars in the world gleamed full of what they were supposed to hold. Patience, forgiveness, sugar. Mine held nothing useful to anyone else. It was a private museum of concessions I had never owed. Reclaiming is quiet work. It is the same motion you use to lift a kettle off a hot burner. Not dramatic, careful, I opened the lid and read them out like names. Sorry for the time I took up with sunlight. Sorry for my blunt jaw at the dinner table. Sorry for the laugh that spilled over the edges. I read each one until they were exhausted of demand. There is a small electric thing that happens when you stop apologizing on someone else's behalf. The rooms around you rearrange themselves, chairs put their feet down, lamps decide where to cast light. People who traded your apologies for rent begin to feel the floor shift beneath their expectations. Some will fumble and ask for what used to be free, a little sorry, just a pinch. But you have learned to keep your hands full of your own carefully owned words. I started to trade the return currency for other objects, a stubborn yes, a midnight walk without explaining, the right to be loud in a room that used to demand hush. I pressed my palms to the jar and learned the heft of my refusal. It is different from anger. Refusal is a geography of small borders, polite fence posts that mark where your breath may be spent. At night I let certain apologies go. I folded them into paper boats and watched them float down the drain, not to disappear, but to stop clogging the pipes of other people's needs. I kept the ones that taught me my edges. The apology for asking for food when my hands were empty. The apology for leaving a party that had the temperature of someone else's story. I labeled them, shelved them, and sometimes I wore them like odd jewelry to remind myself of what had been expected. This is not a sermon. It's a ledger kept with tenderness. There are apologies we owe to hands we have harmed, to names we have called and to forget. But there are apologies we have been trained to carry for other people's comfort. For our size, our speed, our shine, those were never ours to pay. When the percussion slows to a heartbeat and the room leans in like it wants a secret, I tell you this: keep a jar, fill it with the small concessions they tried to make you carry. Read the contents aloud, sometimes until the words stop itching. Then put back only what is truly yours. Leave the rest on the sill to catch the light and learn how to be honest about the weight you bear. There is a dignity in returning an apology that was never yours to begin with. It makes room for the true contrition, the kind that grows from having hurt someone and choosing to repair it, not from being taught how to fit. And when the pulse eases, you will know the difference between debt and habit, between what you owe and what you refuse to let claim you.